Hey everyone, welcome to Worship Artistry. I'm Jason.
I'm Nick.
And there is somebody else on our couch today. This is John Van Deusen. I'm very excited to have you here. John, thanks for coming.
Thanks, John. Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Good.
Well, no, we're really happy you are. Just to kind of give a little introduction. So I've known your music for a really long time. You kind of straddle this really kind of interesting place in my mind to me in terms of how your music works, because you're a worship pastor, you're an artist, you've done all kinds of things outside those worlds, also things inside those worlds, a lot of different roles. I'm curious, just starting off, if you could tell us a little bit about kind of how music fits in your life right now.
Well, music has been a big part of my identity for a long time. And I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a writer for Interlink. Do you guys remember Interlink?
No.
And it's like, is that an
I
internet
didn't even know who
service?
Smashing Pumpkins was this morning. He was telling me about them.
Wow. Well, Interlink used to send these boxes of Christian CDs to youth leaders all over the country.
Oh, okay.
Like 30,000 youth leaders. So anyways, I grew up listening to Christian music, grew up in a musical home, and loved rock and roll music from an early age. And yeah, it just became a part of my identity really early on. And as much as I have tried to shed that part of myself over the years, it just remains with me. Music is how I process the world. I love leading worship. I love making records. I wish it made me more money so it could be my career. But it's just what I do. It's probably the craft, like the craft of writing and recording a record and putting it all together, I would say is the thing that I am the best at. You know, when you think about the types of things that you've gotten good at over the years, you've put a lot of time into, that's my thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everybody else agrees with me. I'm just saying, when I think about myself, it's like, oh, I do that well because I've spent a lot of time making records. So music is still just a huge part of who I am. It's also where I probably find myself most like blissfully in Christ's presence is when I'm making music and recording music or leading worship. So why would I run from that? Yeah. It's very life-giving.
Where do you lead worship then?
I lead worship at Anacortes Christ the King.
Oh, okay.
A church of about 350 people. My dad was the pastor there for about a decade. It's a great congregation, non-denominational, very centrist in our, like, we're apolitical, which in this day and age is kind of a weird thing. So yeah, I lead worship there. I'm also the artist in residence, which truly is semantics, but it just means that I can, they send me as an artist. So when I go and I perform, the church sends me. They're kind of going with me. They endorse what I do, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Right.
The idea of a church sending an artist, like what does that look like?
It's not super complicated. It just means that when I took the job, I said, look, there's a part of what I do that feels like it bears fruit, spiritual fruit. And that is truly like me living into my call as an artist. And it takes time and it takes thought and it takes effort and it takes money, and I have to travel. And yet I also love being a worship leader in the local church. And so they actually feel they fit together for me. And so I just said that up front, and the church leadership basically said, we see that and we approve of that. And so let us write it into your title so that the congregation understands that when you're gone, you know, you're still tethered to the congregation. And when you come back, we want to know, how did it go? And what did you do? And it is amazing because I make art that some Christians are confused by. Not all the music I make is explicitly Christian. And a lot of the art I make it's cutting or maybe even transgressive into certain spaces that Christians feel uncomfortable talking about. And so the fact that the church endorses me is really brilliant. Like, I feel
cool.
very seen and loved. our lead pastor was an art major, so that probably helps. He's a creative.
Right. Yeah.
And Anacortes is a creative environment, so it's not dissimilar to Bellingham.
Sure.
Like, people are seeing the value in art, liturgical art or otherwise. They see the value in it. So,
Is there a decent church scene in Anacortes, or is it kind of like Bellingham, where it's like maybe there's a church scene?
well, if by church scene you mean like, is the local church thriving and robust? No,
Okay.
it's not. I would say it's probably similar to Bellingham or Seattle.
Sure.
Of the 20,000 people on the island, maybe 1,000 are attending church on a Sunday morning,
Okay.
if that puts it into perspective.
A little bit.
I would argue the local church is fairly anemic, but there is a good amount of unity. And there are speed bumps, as there always is when you're trying for an ecumenical spirit. But a lot of the pastors and youth pastors and church workers get together. We do community Good Friday service. So I love that about the Church of Anacortes. We do work pretty hard to recognize that in a lot of ways we're on the same team.
Yeah. What kind of like school did you go to, like schooling wise? Because you seem very smart. You're using a bunch of words I don't understand. So I think that's pretty cool.
He's actually made most of those up. I've been fact checking, actually.
Yeah.
He's running right here. Like,
Exactly. Can we trust ChatGPT anymore?
No, it even says
Could
don't
we
trust
ever?
us on the bottom.
Yeah. I dropped out of high school.
Really? I'm interested now.
I started touring with The Lonely Forest, which is the band I played in for about a decade. My senior year of high school, I dropped out and enrolled in the community college and took an intro to philosophy course online to get the credit I needed. That was where my schooling ended.
Interesting. So you're just a driven character, huh?
I maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just, as the POD song says,
I'm ready.
in the school of hard knocks.
It's like, boom, here comes the boom. I'm ready or not, man.
Yeah, that just wasn't as applicable as the school of hard knocks.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Which, by the way, was on the Little Nicky soundtrack, which I think is very interesting.
That's an interesting movie.
Deep cuts.
That's a very deep.
But yeah, no, I didn't go to school. I'm definitely not a theologian.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, you're very smart. You've convicted. You've been convicted of that.
I've proven my intellect.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you.
It's easy to do with me.
Well, I'm curious. So, you said you dropped out of school, toured with the Lonely Forest, that's like a secular project, right? Like, if you were going to put it, it was rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you find yourself back in. Like, do you think of yourself as a Christian artist? Like, how do you imagine yourself fitting? Or do you fit?
I think it's complicated because I vacillate between what would be considered secular music and Christian music. That is a very purposeful decision on my part. I believe personally that I'm called to offer a holistic perspective as an artist. And so sometimes I sit down and I think, okay, my next record, because I think that way in records, that's how I'm thinking. It's going to be, I'm going to write about what I am going through at the moment, and what I'm going through at the moment is best expressed through poetic language. And I don't really feel the need in this season to write, a hymn. And so I'll kind of categorize my records in that way. Marathon Days was a record I released a couple years ago, and I was really just trying to make a good record. And I wanted to use poetic language. I did want it to be spiritually invigorating, but I wasn't making that record in order to kind of explain what I believe to be the truth, or I wasn't writing a record of worship songs that I wanted a congregation to sing. I mean, one listen through that record and you'll find very quickly that that was not my goal.
Right.
The record I'm making right now is a record of worship, hymns, prayers, devotional, how you can describe it all in that way. And I was very purposeful in that. Like, I want these songs to reflect what I believe to be the truth. I want a good number of the songs to be singable in a group that is trying to enter into God's presence and worship him. And I will say that writing that line, that tension between what is considered like secular and sacred as an artist is not a good business model. But
Interesting. Sorry, I'm just processing what you said, and it's true.
It is like I think there are some Christians who believe that my role as an artist is to always be very clear about what is true.
Right.
And then there are others who don't see it that way, who would look at Van Gogh's Starry Night and say, like, we're really glad that exists. It is not explicitly Christian. It is a work of aesthetic, beauty. He just was looking at the night and painting it in a way that no one else had ever painted it. And it is good that it exists. But it is not necessarily going to be this edifying work of art that is going to, train your mind towards a correct theology. It might help you enter into God's presence. I would imagine if we had it here and we were standing in front of it, we might have a spiritual experience. I don't know. But I see art that way, like the created reality. Like God didn't have to make that plant green. He chose to.
Sure.
Or the blue jay blue. I mean, there are practical reasons within creation for certain, like a robin song is beautiful to us, but it also serves a purpose. God didn't have to make the robin song beautiful to us. He just chose to do that. So God has set a precedent for aesthetic beauty that doesn't necessarily serve like a utility within a corporate setting or a Christian setting. So I take that very seriously, that my artist role is different from a worship leading role. It is very different. They're two different things.
You said that, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but people expect you to just, this is true and be that way, right? So what is that? What is true to you?
Well, I think what they would say is like doctrine, orthodoxy, like orthodox theology. Whether you're writing a poem or writing a screenplay or a book, like if you're going to talk about God and the created reality, and you're going to talk to him and you're going to describe him, it makes sense to be clear and to be clear about what is true.
Sure.
And there are certain things that as Orthodox Christians, we would all agree upon as being like, these are true statements about God. Some, I would say, Christians, they just want artists and creatives to always be abundantly clear with their lyrics or their poetry or their written words or their paintings, right? To reflect that Orthodox theology. I just personally believe that as an artist, I don't believe that every artist and creative needs to do that.
Have you had to navigate that with people that come up to you and be like, man, I really love you, but...
All the time.
Yeah. How does that...
And I'm sleeping in a bed that I've made. Like,
sure.
At my last show that you were at in Bellingham, somebody shared that, like, my son struggles to know whether or not you're still a Christian, because my last record I released was called Anthem Sprinter and is not a Christian record in any way. A lot of the songs I wrote when I was a teenager, but you wouldn't know that unless I told you,
right?
Yeah.
Or unless you read the biography that I wrote for that record. And so it does confuse people, and I take that seriously. I don't want to be a source of confusion. I don't want to be a source of chaos. And so I have to very respectfully and gently say, I love Jesus. I adore Christ.
Sure.
And you're right. Some of the art that I make isn't explicit about that. So I understand your confusion and your concern. Some of my records have lyrics that I wrote specifically in an abstract way in order to create a tension within the listener, or I wanted them to feel something, that I wanted them to feel anger, or I wanted to share what I was feeling to them.
Sure.
That can be a very uncomfortable experience for certain Christians, because most people I've met within Christendom, we want to know.
Yeah.
Mystery is difficult. Not knowing is difficult. We often feel safer when we understand things. So it makes sense. But yeah, I navigate that all the time in messages, emails, people at shows.
Well, just know that we recently talked about you in a podcast on the channel, and every single person was like, "Oh my gosh, I love him."
Yeah.
So you got a lot of fans
Yeah.
on Worship Artistry, and they're like, "Yeah, I just love what he's about," and they were going off on the comments about you, and they're excited that we brought you up.
Yeah.
That blesses me a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, but I deal with a lot of the same kind of things. I'm not an artist like you, but we think very similarly, right? And like, to me, we were just talking about the Christian industry, the Christian music industry. Is it evil? Well, our thumb title.
That's the thumbnail.
Is it evil?
That's the thumbnail.
No, the thumbnail said the Christian music industry is evil. And so, but that's just to get people to watch it, right? And like do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we were talking about all these things, and it's a strange thing to me that we say we're going to write worship songs, but it's for the radio. Or like, how can we make money off of this thing, right? So that's me. That's my perspective on it. So I don't know. I love what you're saying, and all these people in the comments. I agree with you now. I've met the man. I think he's great.
How do you navigate that? Like, so there is an industry, right? Like you said, like, well, you know, if I'm trying to figure out how can this be a job, you know, like, because art takes work, it takes time, it takes money, it takes passion, it takes so much. And I think a lot of times we take art for granted. It's just kind of like, oh, you should just do that for free, man. Right? Like
100%. Yeah.
Like,
for God, right?
You know, I think, you know, what is that Gillian Welch song? Everything is free now, you know, that idea where we kind of devalue those things. And what we talked about in the industry a lot is like how it wants to put you in a box. Like, this is how we this is what you do, and this is how we market you. You flow in like you said, it's not a great business model because you're flowing between all these things. Like, yeah, how do you navigate that?
I have strong feelings about the marriage of Christianity, the gospel message, and the market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, monetizing spiritual disciplines, and I have strong feelings.
Sure.
I have strong feelings about CCLI. And I have strong feelings about tithe money and where it should go. I actually read the passage this morning where Christ, you know, fashions a whip and he clears the temple. And it makes me emotional because he was very angry. And so there's a part of me that wishes I was better at the game and I could just write music that would help pay the bills. And I think God thinks that's good. Like, God wants me to feed my family. I believe that. And like Ecclesiastes talks about enjoying the fruit of our labor. But I do know that if I'm sitting down to write a worship song, a corporate hymn, and the only thing I'm thinking about, or the biggest, most prominent thought in my mind, is whether or not CCLI is going to propagate this song to churches all over the world, and then out of that propagation, then pay me enough money to buy a house, that does not sit well with me. I mean, we're talking about, there was a time where to enter into the holiest of holies was death.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
Right.
And so now God honors us by tabernacling within us. But the temple, like where God is, whether it's our own heart or when we're gathered as a congregation and we're worshiping him, like, we should take that very, very, very seriously. And so because of that, I have all these reservations, and I truly don't even know how to feel about the marriage of commerce and faith.
Well, I have this. I write down titles a lot just because I think that way, and so I wrote down one: Jesus flipped tables in the temple. What would he do in Nashville? So it's kind of like, all right, yeah. It's to me, a lot of this stuff is seemingly gross. There's a lot of like behind the curtains. Like, don't look behind that curtain. Yeah, it's like, what would he do with all of this? What do you think?
I think God uses broken offerings for his good.
Sure, yeah.
So if there's a group of 6 songwriters and 4 of them are only thinking about it as a job, like, God can work with that.
Absolutely, yep.
I also think I've had experiences in Nashville. Like, I have had the privilege of writing with really incredible writers.
For sure.
Because of the people I work with, they've opened certain doors, and I find myself with, honestly, some of the best. And even for this new record, I sat down and wrote with some writers who have written some of the biggest songs that our churches have been singing for the last 20 years. And one in particular, I'm not going to name the writers, but we didn't know each other. They didn't know me. They knew each other. I come in, they have a general idea of who I am. They know they're going to help me write a song for my record. And I expressed that, hey, I want to write a song that like we would all feel comfortable with our children singing someday in a middle school youth group.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I said that, it solidified our joint mission.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it would be really nice if youth groups all over the world sang it financially, but that was not, but that wasn't the main purpose.
That wasn't the purpose, right?
I think they truly got it. They're like, yeah, let's do that.
That's cool.
And there are things I'm not going to say on the record about what I am feeling led to do by the Holy Spirit in regards to the songs I write
Mm-hmm.
for churches to sing, and the ways in which I feel compelled by the Spirit to make sure that the balance between marketplace and monetization, and like why my vocational call as a songwriter for the church, like to make sure the balance is healthy and holy,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't feel like it's disordered,
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't live with myself if it was disordered. So there are things I feel led to do that I'm not going to talk about.
Sure.
But I will say that one of the first times I wrote in Nashville, I said, hey, we should pray. And that caught this writer off guard. And that was so telling to me.
Yeah.
Because if you're a journeyman songwriter, you're sometimes writing 2 to 3 times a day, possibly like 10 times a week.
Right.
And I don't know how they do it.
Right.
I don't know how they do it and maintain their spiritual integrity. I do think most of them, their hearts are in the right place. But I don't think me saying we should pray, I don't think that should have caught them off guard.
Yeah.
Sure.
My experience is I had a similar thing where I've gotten to write with some really amazing people I really look up to,
Mm-hmm.
who are incredible. And I met so many people in the industry that I'm like, your heart is amazing. Like you actually care about this, but you're still working within this machine that they're wrestling with and they're struggling with all the time. And so it's like, even that is like, man, why is it so hard to work in this thing? It's like when you recognize that and you're like, it's kind of grinding gears and going like, okay, well, what is this? Do you feel like being outside of Nashville, like kind of living up in this weird little corner where, like, as we said, there aren't a lot of churches. There's not, it's like the idea of like, oh, a song's going to go huge in churches in Bellingham is like kind of comical, right? Like that's like,
Yeah.
cool. That'll make you 3 cents on CCLI probably. Like, do you feel like being somewhat of an outsider from a location standpoint gives you a different perspective on the industry and kind of your fit there?
I would speak first to the disadvantage of being in the Northwest in Anacortes. Out of sight, out of mind is a very real problem within the industry. So I would probably have way more going on professionally if I lived in Orange County or Nashville or even Raleigh or some other place. The aesthetic world that I grew up in musically, it shaped me. It forms like what we grow up in. It shapes us. It forms our aesthetic taste. And mine was shaped by the Anacortes music scene and subsequently the Seattle scene, the indie rock and DIY punk scene. And so to this day, I do not fit in. If I filter I could write a song that I want Chris Tomlin to sing, but if I filter it through my aesthetic lens, it's not going to sound anything like Chris Tomlin. And I actually think that is one of my personal strengths. It works to my advantage that I don't sound like all these other artists. And being an outsider stepping in, you have a different perspective. You just do. You are able to see things differently than those who are living in it every day, who are in Franklin, Tennessee every day.
Franklin.
Like truly though.
No,
Yeah,
I just nobody says Franklin. Everybody says Nashville. Sorry,
But Franklin is
that's where everybody
That's
is.
where it is.
and so I think about that a lot. And I think that, my barometer as an artist, as a creative, is to make something that I would like.
Mhm.
So my aesthetic decisions, my production decisions, they fall into that place for me. Like, would I like this and would I listen to this? I'm always aiming for that. And because I've been shaped by a different set of forces, it sounds a little different. But I'll be in Nashville 3 or 4 times in the next few months. And I'm part of a writing cohort where I'm going to step in, and most of the other writers will be from Nashville. And so maybe we can report back and I can tell you.
There you go. Yeah, do a follow.
was it like
We got an
follow-up.
insider.
Yeah.
being with them for 3 days. And
Yeah.
my guess is that they'll affirm that part of who I am.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I first actually like met you after not seeing you, after like meeting you when you were a kid, like years ago, right? But like very briefly. But I remember running it because we had texted back and forth about some stuff. And so I saw you at the plane gate, and I had just gone and done this Anchor Hymns project.
Yeah.
Which was very stretching for me. Like I'm just like, I don't belong here with these people. Like just from a standpoint of like career and what they've done, and it's amazing people. But like, and I got to the gate to fly to Seattle, and it's like every time I go to Nashville, I always feel there's just something in me that I'm like, I don't feel like I really belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was cool to get to the gate on the way to Seattle and run into you. And I was like, I spoke with John Van Deusen for like 5 minutes at the gate and felt more at home than I did the entire trip. And I think that does speak to like different geographies and different cultures. And it's like, when I listen to your music, it makes so much more sense to me. And I grew up in New Jersey. I didn't grow up in Washington, but I got here and I was like, these are my people. I found it. But it's so, I think it's so important that we have artists that lean into all those things, because at the end of the day, like the Nashville sound isn't for everybody. It's apparently for a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people really like it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I need to hear something different. I need to hear spiritual music that pulls me both stylistically and musically in different directions. And I need lyrics that challenge me and meet me where I'm at, and don't just tell me like always how good God is, but also help, which he is, but also help me wrestle through all the other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think you've done that really well. And so
Thank you.
When I hear you talk, and when you talk about your music, and it's like, there's a real sacrifice there to not make the thing that everybody wants you to make, especially when like your livelihood is involved. Right. And so it's like, I think it's really, really cool that you're staying true to what you're doing, that you actually feel a sense of calling. And it doesn't mean that other people aren't called, but you're doing what you're supposed to do. And maybe CCLI doesn't push that to everybody, but I think I would say that maybe it has a deeper impact in a smaller group of people.
That's a cool way to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about making a deeper impact in a smaller group of people. Thank you for saying all of that. I feel more, this is going to sound dramatic, but I'm being sincere. I feel more tortured as an artist than I have ever felt because of what you're talking about. Because I have 2 kids and I live in a place in the world I can't afford. And yet I know that I was made personally to live in a dissonance, a tension. I think it's what I just do naturally. And anytime I've gone too hard in one direction, I immediately begin to course correct. And to your point about the Nashville sound, I think the sound is usually defined by a genre-defining record or an artist, and everybody sees how brilliant it is and they get on board. Arguably, we could use Hillsong as an example. came out of the gates and did something that actually wasn't being done
Mhm.
and did it really well. So they defined a sound. Now, as far as like the Nashville sound is concerned, I'm not really sure what that means. I know that there's an element of Southern culture. There's probably some roots music and country music influence in there. But the idea of like a sound as it pertains to worship music,
Mhm.
that's bigger.
Yeah.
It draws from U2 and Delirious. It draws from post rock and a lot. It is a weird combination of styles.
Right.
I would argue that people are really ready for something different. So you said it's still popular, the Nashville sound. I think there's a sea change happening, and the artists themselves are wanting to make something that reflects who they are and the place, their geography, where they were raised.
Mhm.
You know, the forces that shape their aesthetic tastes. I think more and more worship artists are realizing, like, wait, if I was to sit down and try to make something that I would actually like, it would probably sound a bit different.
Mhm.
And I actually think the audience is ready for worship artists to do that. So I'm a firm believer in, you know, the day when the day comes that you know, we need Brandon Lake, for example. We need him to do some soul searching and figure out, like, what does he want to make? We want that from him.
Mhm.
That will make the world a better place. And if he was raised listening to country music and he loves country music, we kind of want him to take this mixture of who makes Brandon Lake, and then
Mhm.
filter it through his aesthetic, like, palette, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
So that's a really long, meandering way of saying, like, I don't know what the Nashville sound is. I don't know what worship sound is anymore, but I do think people are ready for something different. That's why I made the record I make. Like, there are songs on my record that have double kick drums.
Right.
There's worship songs that sound like Weezer or the Foo Fighters or Sunny Day Real Estate or Death Cab for Cutie and all the Anacortes music I grew up around. And
you're referring to your new record?
yeah.
Yeah, As Long as I Am in the Tent of This Body, I Will Make a Joyful Noise, Part 1
And 2.
and 2.
So it's 2 parts.
Two's out?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Part
2
one's
is
not
being,
out. Part one's not even
Parts
out
one,
yet.
Only
part
4
one is out
songs.
October 3rd. Part 2 will be out after that.
Mhm.
And but my whole thing was like, so I wrote a song with Matt Maher. When Matt Maher and I wrote, it was like, we should write a song that like Chris Tomlin would want to sing. Let's try to do that.
Mhm.
And do it in an intellectually honest way that we like it. Well, of course, Chris Tomlin's never going to sing that song, but I recorded it and it sounds like Death Cab for Cutie and I dare I say some Fugazi and the music that I like. And I like that about it.
Yeah.
So I want more people to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. People use the word worship as like shorthand for a certain genre.
Yeah.
And it's like, worship's not a genre. Like, I will go to my death, like pounding the table, like, worship is not a genre. It's like, it's just, but it's been jammed because it's marketable, right? Because it's like, okay, we can make it sound like this, and then you'll know that's what it is. It's like shorthand for it.
Yeah. Well, you're touching on something I love to talk about, which is basically like, well, one, what does it mean to worship something? And two, you think of the greatest artists who have ever lived. Like, I think Van Gogh is such a good example because he apparently was a believer in Christ who also struggled immensely, you know, was not a financial success, had mental illness. He was a tortured soul.
Mm.
Was he worshiping when he painted, you know, wheat fields or whatever? Like, was that an act of worship? And then subsequently, the thing he made, his thing he created, is it worshipful?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important conversation to have.
It's like when Nick first came out here, he's like, I always thought of worship as music.
That's what I was raised
just
that's what it is. Yeah.
And it's just like, well, no, it's just like everything, right? Like everything that we do is unto the Lord, like presenting our bodies as living sacrifices and everything, you know? And so it's interesting how we've taken worship and we put it into music. And so, but I always think, when I think about it as a worship pastor, I think about it as like, what are the songs that my congregation can sing? And I always call it like congregational worship. It's like, okay, these are songs we can all sing together that we can all say are true. And then we can all have all these other songs that we can wrestle with all those things. And then sometimes we can pastor people through wrestling with it, right?
As a worship director or a worship pastor, I think the job is to curate a moment, a time
Mhm.
in a specific place for a group of people. And your goal is to help them, the eyes of their heart, to look upon Christ, to glorify Christ, to lament together, to enter into his presence and worship in spirit and in truth. And that's your goal.
Mhm.
So basically you're shaping and curating this time to help a group of people do that. And you should try to have a low bar of entry into God's presence, which means you shouldn't probably be distracting. If your production is so high that it feels like a rock concert, you might be missing the mark. And so that's a conversation I love because I've been to a lot of rock concerts. I've seen way too many rock bands. And I was at a pastor's conference recently at an unnamed church where I was sitting there and I couldn't enter into worship because it just felt too much like a rock concert to me. It was so, everything was by the book, the builds, the constant builds.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say it was emotionally manipulative because I think music by nature is just a powerful tool.
Mhm.
But I felt so distracted and I felt so disturbed. I had to leave.
Mhm.
And but here's the thing. There were 480 other people who didn't feel that way.
Right.
They loved it. And I don't know, like as a worship pastor, I'm gonna be so curious. We don't have to talk about it now, but how do you strike a balance between offering something that is good, but is not so produced that it's distracting? How do you keep the song singable? Because you don't want to make it hard on them.
Right.
You want to make it easy.
Right.
The low bar is the way I say it. Like I want them to enter into God's presence. I want them to enter into worship quickly,
Mhm.
not like flippantly.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think so. I'm a worship pastor at a small church in town.
Yeah.
And you will never come there and go, man, the production level here is just face
No, you
melting.
won't.
Do you go to church here?
No, not with him. No.
Yeah, no,
Nick,
never.
Nick
No.
couldn't take it.
I,
Too many.
I
too-
like
there's,
more production than
There's
that.
too many kids running around. It'd just be chaos. But
I'd yell at a kid. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I would. Yeah.
but yeah, no, I agree with you. I think worship is something that's very congregational, communal worship is something that is like meant to engage everyone that's there. It's. I think we tend to turn it into these other things, and it's like, no, we're all just here. Like I loved your description of just we're here to like focus our eyes on Christ, focus our hearts on Christ. Like that's what it is. It's just going like, hey, we're all going to turn in the same direction right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that together.
Mhm.
And we're going to learn by the words that we're singing.
Mhm.
We're going to learn how these can become prayers. We're going to learn how to take this out into our everyday. It's like a lot of the songs I write are very simple, but they're just meant to be almost like little mantras that I can sing all day.
Mhm.
So it's like, this is a prayer that I continue to go through, and it's like got a little hook to it, so it makes it easier, right?
Yeah.
So I think it can look a lot different. I think we in the worship world we see it all the time, right? Because with worship artistry, we're doing tutorials for songs and all that kind of thing, and so
Yeah.
you're dealing with worship leaders and worship musicians all the time, and it's funny because the questions always tend to be the surface level questions of what kind of pedal do I need for this? Or what do how do you do this thing with this? It's all like tech focused, or it's all what tools are you using? Or, and it's like, I want to talk more about what it is to pastor people in worship,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, that's okay. That's cool. But seriously though, do I use this overdrive pedal or do I use this overdrive
How do I
pedal?
get less bass?
Yeah.
That's my favorite question. Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with being interested in those things, obviously. But when we talk about worship, I think we do have to remember that it is sacred.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like that's what we're doing. Like it's a sacred thing. And so I love the value that you put on it. I think even the way that you make music and the way that you produce music and everything, like it all kind of speaks to that. It's all there. It doesn't feel trite. It doesn't feel like you're trying to to write me my next hit song, but I can also listen to it and go, man, I can just sit here and sing All Shall Be Well, and we can all sing that really easily. And also, man, what a thing to sing right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you.
Well, we were listening to one of your new songs, "Jesus of Nazareth," and that's on Spotify. And that's what this one that's earlier we're talking about Smashing Pumpkins. He's like, this guy writes all kinds of stuff like, and this one kind of sounds like the Smashing Pumpkins a little bit, and like a little vibe to him. And I was like, for sure, but who's that? And like, I don't listen to much music. I do, but it's all very underground, and I don't care about popular stuff. I recognize that name, but one thing that's cool to me is we were listening through some of your songs. Okay, so as opposed to like, let's just say mainstream, like Christian worship, what we're talking about, your songs sounded like actually different, between each one almost even. And I really, really liked that, because oftentimes now we get people like, hey, we're putting out a new record and it's totally different. We'll push play and we're like, yeah, that's the exact same. I don't understand.
In what way is it different?
That was one thing I really appreciated about yours. But Jesus of Nazareth, I did really like that song. To me, it sounded like the overdriven kind of preamp guitars. I don't know if that's what it was, but that's kind of what it sounded like. And I love that sound. So
acoustic guitars through fuzz pedals.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then so James Krause, who mixed that record, is mixing the second part. I mean, he did work on Beyonce's Double record. He's done a lot of pop music. He was so funny. He was like, this isn't heavy enough. It needs more. And he referenced Smashing Pumpkins. Like, we need something. So I actually just ran, because I didn't have a setup at the moment. I ran my guitar through the computer, just like DI straight in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And chose Logic X's pedal board function.
Sure.
And literally chose like 4 or 5 of their distortion fuzz pedals.
That's the sound.
And made it sound as gross as possible.
Yeah.
And he just layered it in with the acoustics that have the fuzz pedals.
Cool, I can hear that now. Yeah, because to me, what it sounded like was a DI guitar that just had like a tape on it, and the saturation was just like maxed out. But it was really cool. I love the sound of that, and you do not hear that pretty much anywhere else. So thank you for actually being different when you say you are.
As a 4 on the Enneagram scale, I really love that you think I'm unique.
I don't even know what that means.
You don't need to know, but
okay, perfect. But you're unique.
Yeah, thank you. As a lover of hardcore and metal and screamo music, you should absolutely know who the Smashing Pumpkins are.
Oh, no. I don't think so.
No, here's what I have to say.
Okay.
There are moments in Smashing Pumpkins history where, as a live band, they were arguably like one of the heaviest bands on the planet.
Interesting.
Like so unbelievably heavy. So maybe after this, I could find... You don't...
Please do it, because I will absolutely disagree with you, even after I listen to it. But I would love to hear it. I would.
Are you a Refused fan?
I don't know what that means.
You've never listened to The Shape of Punk to Come?
No.
Oh, man, we have a lot of things to talk about.
I didn't even know who the
We got to wrap this interview up so we can listen to music. I'm curious, like 30 songs, I think 30 songs, right? For part 1 and 2?
More than that, yeah.
Yeah. How many?
I think maybe 33, 34.
Wow.
So you've always kind of like broken things up into projects. Like, you said you create albums. You've done all these parts. You have like your, I Am Origami, part 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Right. Like, when you like, do you take on a project with like a vision for the project, or are you kind of writing for like, this is what I'm writing right now, and this all kind of fits in this zone? And how do you go about deciding what belongs where?
I like having a theme, or a kind of like an idea of a thesis. Like, what am I trying to do with this record? What am I trying to say? What do I want it to sound like? How do I want it to feel? I definitely make those decisions usually before I start. This record, as long as I am in the tent of this body, I will make a joyful noise. I started it really feeling spiritually compelled to make it, and was, if I'm really honest, suffering and struggling through a lot of depression while I began the project, and had this immense sense that I needed to make it before I would die, which is kind of a like dramatic thing to say, but it truly was this kind of like, I think I need to make this work of art before I go. And whether that's in 40 years or 4 years, I have no idea. So I felt spiritually compelled to make it. And I knew that I wanted it to be, I wanted it to honor God, like for his glory and for the good of the church. And I also am very aware that a lot of my listeners have church hurt and spiritual trauma, or they've deconstructed to the point of no return, or they're spiritually sensitive and they don't know how they feel about Christian culture. I have a lot of those listeners. And so it just felt like I need to make this thing. And I wanted to honor God. And because I wanted to honor God and I want the songs to explicitly talk about truth, what I perceive to be true of Christ and of God and of this reality, I was very intentional with how I was writing my lyrics. I would say 95% of the lyrics I wanted to be fairly clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wrote too many. I kept writing. And when I started recording the record, I would record one song and I'd move on to the next, and they just kept coming and coming. And basically what I do is I open a Logic X file and I pull all of my songs into one Logic X file, and I basically create a running order from start to finish. It includes transitions. So if you listen to my records, if you've listened, you'll know that there are often songs that, like, one is ending as another one is beginning in the same key, or there's like a noise collage that like kind of tapes two songs together. Well, I do that as I make the record. I want to know the order of the songs. I want to know what's first, and I want to know what's last. So that's what happened. There was all of these songs in this Logic X project, and I kind of knew which song had to go next to this other song and how they were going to flow together. And I just refused to cut the songs. It felt these have to exist in this way. I didn't want to divorce them from one another, which is why they have the same title. And there's a part 1 and a part 2, because my record label, Anotherland Records, looked at me and said, this is a lot. And we want people to be able to take it in and experience this. But if you release, an opus that from the gate is like over 2 hours worth of music, some of which is just like recordings of frogs chirping or like coal trains going by, it might diminish its impact. And they were right. Like, it makes sense for me to cut it into 2 parts. So that's why there's a part 1 and a part 2. My plan is to release it on vinyl as one work. I worked really hard on the cover art. Took me a long time. Thank you.
Did you do it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. It's analog and digital collage. Took me a very long time. And so when I started this process, and as it began to evolve, I knew that I wanted somebody to be able to hold a vinyl that has like at least 3 pieces of vinyl, because it's over 2 hours worth of music. I knew what the cover art would be. I knew that I know I want there to be an insert that you pull out, and it's going to be the cover art in a poster form. So all of that is like in my head. And it's a combination of all the things I love: art, like visual aesthetic, production aesthetic, lyrical choices, the science. Truthfully, I think the science or the art of creating an album like a running order. I don't think a lot of artists think that way anymore. We could argue that, Sufjan does. We could probably think of lots that do. But within the worship world, I don't think there are a lot of artists who are sitting down and thinking like, what's the first song? What's the last song? What's going to happen in the middle? What am I trying to say? How do I want people to feel when they finish this record all the way through?
I can see why you really like this guy. You guys are kind of similar.
I've had a lot of conversations about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a lot about my record, but it is a labor of love. I truthfully have had a lot of mental health struggles while making it, which I think is fascinating, because it's this like, it's a joyful noise. And yet I have really struggled, and I'm still struggling. It's something that Christ is helping me walk through. I mean, my appointment this morning was literally therapy. And it is interesting to me that he hasn't taken it from me. It's like he's kept me in it. And here I am making a worship record, and yet I'm still in it. And I don't think that's accidental. It makes me emotional talking about it. I think he wants me to be raw.
Hmm.
He wants me to present in a vulnerable way because I think it impacts other people. So,
Is that something you've dealt with your entire life, like mental illness and depression and such?
yeah, depression and anxiety probably kicked in for me in high school. If you go back and listen to The Lonely Forest, you'll hear a lot of lyrics about depression, a lot of feeling isolated, a lot of, self-hatred, a lot of like, I don't want to say suicidal tendencies because that's such a intense way to say it, but like just struggling with the existence. So yeah, I've been singing about that for a long time, and I've just always tried to be honest about it.
Sure.
It's just different now that I'm almost 40 and I have kids and I'm a worship leader and I'm making Christian music. It's just different. It's not a normal thing to do that and still say, and yeah, I'm struggling with depression.
Okay, so here's a question. When does your new album release?
October 3rd. Comes out on Another Land Records on October 3rd. That's part 1. And then part 2, which is being finished right now, will come out not too long after that. And I believe the vinyl will be available when part 2 is released. Part 2 is fun for me because it's the one that has all the features. So there's no features on part 1. Part 2 has friends and peers on it, which is kind of exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited. The song that comes out, well, it won't be this week, as in by the time this is seen by people. But the song that comes out this week, as of like this week we're filming, is my rendition of By Gracious Powers. Have you heard that song?
I don't know that one.
Do you know the hymn or the poem?
Mm-mm.
So Bonhoeffer wrote this poem for New Year's Day. It would have been New Year's 1945. He wrote it in December 1944. He writes this poem. This is basically a meditation upon suffering. And it was smuggled out of his cell. And then he was executed. So it's like we have this incredible poem written by a martyr that is basically saying to our creator, like, this world is beautiful and really hard. And so I'm really excited about that song because it has John Ringhofer from Half-Handed Cloud. Do you know Half-Handed Cloud? He's on Asthmatic Kitty, which is Sufjan Stevens' record label. John is just this OG, just true Christian artist, makes some of the most brilliant and interesting Christian art you'll ever hear. So he plays horns and there's strings, and I'm really excited about this single, which doesn't matter to any of these people because it will already be out. I'm excited about my record. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm happy.
Yeah. Very cool. Is that the song you're most excited about then?
On the whole record,
Sure. Yeah.
part 1 and 2, there's a song. The first song on part 2 features the Salvation Choir.
That sounds cool to me.
They are rad. A choir of refugees that lives in Kansas City.
Oh, wow.
I love that song and I love their vocals on it. John Guerra and I wrote a song that's on part 2 where he sings a lot of it, and his vocal take is just kind of incredible. I have Sandra McCracken featuring on a song on part 2 that actually becomes arguably the heaviest song on the record. And I love that. I love getting her to sing on the song that gets really heavy and loud.
Thank you so much for joining us. I think
thank you.
A lot of times it's Nick and I having conversations, and I've done a lot of interviews with artists over the years. And you were definitely somebody I was really wanting to get in here and actually sit down with and hear your thoughts, and very excited for the record.
Thank you.
We don't, I don't just like high five everything, that comes over the desk and go like, that's great. And, but I really do. I believe in what you're doing, and I think you do an amazing job at it. And so my hope is more people find you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I really like listening to your music so far this last week, actually, because I've never heard of you. And then he started talking about you. I was like, well, shoot, maybe I need to check out this John Van Dam, kind of like JVD.
John Van Dam. I like that.
But I really do like your music, actually, and that's something I do not tell people.
That is true. That is true. Good to hear you say this.
I do like it. Yeah,
I appreciate that a lot.
But seriously, thank you so much for coming all the way up to Bellingham from Anacortes for us, and hopefully you guys check out his music. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, everywhere.
Yeah, I'd prefer Apple Music and Bandcamp.
Oh, okay. So
Apple Music and it's not on Spotify.
not
It is- no, no, no.
Spotify.
It's on. Nope,
It
no.
is on Spotify.
Get off Spotify.
I'm just saying that like I would prefer Apple Music and
sure,
Bandcamp.
sure, absolutely.
Right.
So we can put those links in the description
Yeah.
for Apple Music and Bandcamp for sure. But
Thanks.
yeah, seriously, thanks again, man. And we will catch you guys next time. Please leave some comments down below, and we will talk at you soon.